Welcome back everyone to the last recap of the Croatian Team Championship. I've just finished round 9 against Maksim Chigaev, and I just realized also that I didn't record anything in the morning because I simply forgot, cannot sugarcoat it. And yeah, so I'll give you some information now about today's game. So it was the last round, and I played against Maksim Chigaev, who is originally from Russia but is representing Spain already for quite some time. And he's been like 2600 for many years. And yeah, of course I wanted to end the tournament on a good note, but as you can already see, it did not go my way today. I lost the game, which is of course unfortunate since I was unbeaten throughout the whole event, and to lose in the last round is of course quite painful, especially considering how the game went. But let's jump right into it. So he opened the game with e4, and I went e5, just a second, okay, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and now he went d4, which surprised me a little bit, but I still checked it a little bit, the Scotch, since he has many games in this, especially in the online format. I mostly focused on bishop c4 and bishop e5 for this game, of course, the two main moves. But he went d4, takes, and now knight f6, which I briefly added to my repertoire. Before that I just went queen f6, and my opponent also told me that he mostly prepared for queen f6 and moves like bishop c5. So that was good, and he took now and didn't go for the main move with e5, but went bishop d3, which, as I said before, this is what I briefly prepared because he played it online, but I didn't really think that he would play it in a classical game as well, so I only had a look for 1 minute maximum. So d5, e takes d5, c takes d5, short castle, bishop e7, and now he went c4, which does look like quite a harmless line, but it's actually not so naive for white to play like this. Castle is logical, and here he went d takes c4, which c takes d5, which surprised me a little bit, since knight c3 is kind of like the main move. And here I only knew that d4, knight e4, and here knight g4 is a strong response for black when I have the idea of knight e5 to capture the bishop on d3, and also some ideas with f5 are there when black is doing pretty fine. C takes d5, I remember I had it on the screen, but could not just recall the right way to play. I simply took back with the knight. My opponent told me that bishop e7 is also possible, maybe a bit more accurate even, when he said that knight c3, knight takes d5, and now bishop d2 is how it goes, and rook b8 when the position is very dry and there's not much happening here. But knight takes d5 I played, which is also fine, queen f3, and here c6. Again, bishop e7 might be a bit more of an active way to play here, but I was a bit worried that there might be happening some things on this diagonal like rook d1. I wasn't sure how to develop my pieces, but I guess also rook b8 here, there's not much to worry about for me here. But c6 is also okay. I'm simply stabilizing the knight on d5. And in general, what you can say about the position is that, of course, I have the weak pawn on c6, so I have the worst pawn structure, but my active piece placement compensates for that in general very much. Especially the knight on d5 is a great piece, and the bishop often comes to f6 where it has this nice diagonal. So we went rook d1. Now I went queen c7, simply stepping out of the d file. Knight a3, and here I went a5, which is still fine. Bishop takes a3 also looks somewhat logical, ruining white's pawn structure. But now he has the bishop pair, and the bishop will get to b2 most likely sooner or later when these bishops are just super strong. So this didn't look very good for me. a5, the point that I sooner or later want to go a4. And in general, if I get to exchange this pawn for one of white's pawns here, then I solved really all of my problems. And by pushing this pawn up here, I'm also gaining space on the queen side. So he went knight c4, now bishop e6, and after a3, now I went a4. He played a3 to avoid any ideas with knight b4, I think, because this could be a bit annoying if I get this. So a3, I went a4, and now the pawn on b2 is also somewhat of a target, can be, but it's not easy for me to attack it yet, since the knight on c4 defends it pretty well. Bishop d2, rook fb8. Also important to take this rook, I think, because the rook on a8 is still plays pretty well, defending the pawn on a4. And also there are some ideas with knight a5 or bishop a5, therefore it makes sense to take this rook. Now bishop c2. My idea was to go rook b3 here, therefore he doesn't allow that. Bishop c2, that was good. Now rook b5. Until here we more or less played a perfect game. And after rook b5 I actually offered a draw, since I wasn't feeling so well. In general, I caught some sort of cough the last couple of days, and I thought the position is just totally balanced, and thought if he would be happy with the draw, then we could just both go home basically. But yeah, he felt like playing and played h3, which is a good move. With rook b5, I'm actually already somewhat threatening knight f6 now, but h3 has the idea that now knight f6, there's no more bishop g4. I anyway went knight f6, which is still a good move, but I followed up incorrectly. After the game we discussed that instead of knight f6, my original idea was to go rook c5, which might be better. He probably has to go bishop d3 to defend the knight, and then something like rook b8. And we discussed briefly rook c1, and after rook b3 he probably has something like queen e4. But yeah, this will be very unclear, because also my pieces are very active, and this could become quite double-edged as well. But I went knight f6 simply with the idea that now the knight is hanging, and if the knight moves, then I'll always be able to capture on b2. And he went bishop f4, which I also expected, and here I went quickly queen b7, which is more or less already a losing move, even though it looks simply so logical. I totally missed his response later on. Knight d6 I still saw, but after bishop d6, rook d6. Now, in general, I totally missed this idea with queen d3, that his attack is just more or less crashing through here. Instead of queen b7, it seems like queen a7 still totally holds the balance, since now I never have to give up my bishop, which is very important. So here I guess I can just take on b2 when I would be totally alright. So yeah, queen a7, and I'm not sure if I would lose that game. I think I also thought about knight e5 here possibly, but maybe I even have something like bishop d5. Because if rook b2 now, I guess there is knight x e6 when I have some issues, but maybe I can go bishop d5 simply. And yeah, that looks pretty safe for me. But yeah, I went queen b7, and after knight d6, takes. Originally, I also wanted to take on b2, but then I also realized here probably queen d3 is coming as well. I even was a bit scared of bishop takes a4 when I can never recapture because of rook d8, and otherwise c6 is hanging. But queen d3 also looked extremely unpleasant. My pieces are somewhat misplaced. My rook on b2 is not doing that much, and now he has the threat of rook d8. Also, he has the idea of bishop e5 or bishop g5 when I also don't see how to defend my king side. So I went bishop d5. Now queen d3, another strong move, rook takes b2, and now rook takes f6, rook takes e2, and I still thought that I'm somewhat holding on in this position, but of course it did look extremely dangerous. But that it's already completely winning for white was very surprising to me. And he followed up in the most accurate way. Rook e1, important. If he does something like queen c3 here, yeah, then he will not have queen b2 later on. This I will get to that later. He went rook e1, queen d7, and now after rook e3, king h8, queen b2. Probably the only winning idea. He has to be quite accurate, because let's say he goes queen c3 right away, or queen b2 right away. Then if I get queen f5, I'm probably doing alright, because I also have some counterplay myself. If I get queen g6, I'm already threatening mate on g2. But yeah, rook e3 was really strong, and now king h8. Position is already lost, so I don't see what else I can do. Computer suggests rook e8, but I'm not sure what happens after rook g3, and now I guess queen c3 or queen b2. It also looks basically lost, because there's always bishop h6, and after rook g8, I even saw this idea sometimes, bishop g7 and queen g8 when checkmate is coming. So yeah, I played king h8, and now queen b2, queen f5, and now he went bishop e5, and I realized that I'm just completely lost. Again, probably the only winning idea for white. Otherwise, I will get rook g8, and I will get my own counterplay. But bishop e5 was just a fantastic resource by my opponent. And I took on e5. What I also realized why queen b2 was that important was, let's say I make space for the king with h5 or h6. bishop f6, king h7, and now rook g3. And at first I thought I'm still somewhat holding on with rook g8, but here now you can see why the queen is important on b2. There's queen b8 check, probably the only winning idea for white, and I'm just simply getting checkmated here. So that was another unlucky detail, yeah, that the queen is on b2 and I'm not on c3. So yeah, I tried, after bishop e5, I went for this and gave up the queen, but it's just completely lost. The other important thing is that after queen f6, there is rook e8. When, if I take here, queen f6 is again winning. And maybe this is a better version actually than what happened in the game, because at least I have the rook on e8 there. I don't know why I didn't even try that. Wherever the queen moves, if I don't go to f6, then rook e8 is even checkmate, because white has the double check on my king. So I tried going for this, but if I would have a pawn on g6 or on g7, it would probably be a draw. But this is just a big detail, and if I'm going here, for example, white will always push the h-pawn, and my king will probably also get mated, because h5 will come, queen g5, h6, and then white will at least win the pawn on h7, and the h-pawn will queen. So I went king e7, tried looking for some counterplay here, but it's just way too slow. h6, rook h8, and at first I thought c3 might be a chance, because something like this, I thought it can be actually not entirely clear. Probably this is also lost, but I thought if I get something like this, maybe I have some hopes of the c-pawn, but it's probably also lost as well. But then I realized that after c3, he can just go queen d3 when he picks up the c-pawn on the next move. So yeah, I tried rook h8, but now queen f6, rook h7, and after f3 I already resigned, because I just cannot do anything. White will bring the king and then just push the pawns, g4, f4, g5, f5, g6, something like that, and he will just win slowly. So yeah, I'm quite disappointed to lose the last game like this, since I had a decent position after the opening. And of course, it's always painful to lose the last game in a tournament, which you otherwise played really well. And yeah, I think overall that I just had many chances in the tournament, and finishing on -1 is actually quite a disappointment, since I was winning in the 3 games and didn't win any of them at all. So yeah, I really need to work on my technique when winning the games, where I'm winning at. So, but yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed the recaps overall in this tournament. Today, it was probably not that nice to listen to everything with my mood after that game, but I still hope that it was somehow enjoyable. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about the coverage of the event. I really hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you wish to see now that I finished the event. I'll go home tomorrow. And yeah, thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you for your encouraging comments as always. That was always a big help. And other than that, I will see you in the upcoming videos. So thank you guys and take care.